In a time of increasing division over government assistance to the needy, universal basic income has reemerged as a potential solution to poverty in the U.S. Admired and condemned on both the right and the left, universal basic income, or UBI, is unique in its ability to cut across party lines while stirring up immense controversy. So what exactly is a UBI? Universal basic income is a form of social security in which all citizens, regardless of other factors, regularly receive an unconditional sum of money to supplement their income from other sources. Although fairly simple on the surface, the particulars of implementing a UBI are the topic of heated debate. How much money should individuals receive? Should children receive UBI? Should the reimbursement decrease as the individual's outside income increases? Generally, the UBI is seen as a way of providing all people with the necessities of life, and as such, would be set based on living wage standards. Nothing better illustrates the universal basic income's ability to transcend ideology than the lineup of its historical supporters. The list includes Milton Friedman, the libertarian economist who advocated for a UBI in the form of a negative income tax; Martin Luther King Jr., who saw the UBI as critical to his vision of economic justice; and Richard Nixon, who attempted to pass a version of Friedman's plan and failed in the late 1960s. How exactly has this policy managed to jumble our neat and tidy notion of a linear political spectrum? Liberal proponents of the UBI often see it as a supplementary welfare program to cut poverty rates while closing the gap between rich and poor. Recent studies have found that poverty in the United States could be cut in half were the government to give as little as $3,000 to each citizen. According to data from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, in 2013, the top 1% of Americans received 17% of the nation's income. By comparison, the bottom 20% received only 4%. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2015, nearly 50 million Americans were living in poverty, a number that amounts to a poverty rate of 13.5%. A poverty rate of that magnitude ranks the U.S. near the bottom of the world's developed economies. On the other hand, conservative proponents of the UBI see it as a much-needed replacement for the bloated welfare bureaucracy. They view direct monetary injections as the least burdensome policy, economically speaking. According to the Senate Budget Committee, the current U.S. welfare system extends across 83 federal programs, which cost a total of $1.03 trillion when local and state spending is taken into account. Although this number is a fairly liberal interpretation of welfare spending, more conservative estimates put the number around $212 billion, it shows the mass of non-entitlement welfare spending. The same report states that such spending has risen 378% in the past 30 years in inflation-adjusted dollars. Universal basic income faces a notable level of opposition from both sides as well. Liberal opponents of UBI often cite the fact that it dilutes spending earmarked for the poor across the entire population. They also look to block grants as models for how the UBI could become less generous over time. Conservative opponents of the UBI are often critical because of its perceived disincentive to work. They also disagree with the underlying message of government dependence that UBI cultivates. The wide range of opinions regarding UBI often stem from differing understandings of the policy's main objectives. The main three objectives of a UBI have been described by economist Kevin Milligan as the basic income impossible trinity. The idea goes something like this. For a UBI to be successful from all ideological perspectives, each person must receive a benefit adequate to live on, the total cost of the UBI must be covered by the replacement of existing welfare programs, and benefits must phase out at high incomes. The impossible trinity lies in the fact that only two of these conditions can be met at one time without the program becoming prohibitively expensive or producing an overwhelming disincentive to work. The impossible trinity isn't so much a problem with the policy of UBI itself as a political headache that prevents such legislation from being passed with bipartisan support. Recently, however, the argument for universal basic income has taken on a different flavor entirely. Scientists, looking at the trajectory of technology and automation and artificial intelligence, have proposed the mind-boggling possibility that in the not-so-distant future, human labor may no longer be needed to maintain robust economic activity. In a world where human labor is no longer valuable, society will have to evolve a method other than wage labor to distribute wealth. The universal basic income has been proposed as wage labor's successor in an automated future. As fantastical as such predictions sound, a recent study from Oxford examining the U.S. economy found that 47% of total U.S. employment is at serious risk of being automated in the near future. The universal basic income's economic sensibility is undeniable, and yet for many, it challenges fundamental assumptions of a government's relationship to its people. Although we may debate the issue now, an automated future may ultimately make the decision for UBI for us. Regardless, the policy's unique ability to transcend ideology and blur the partisan divide make it an interesting topic of debate.
Created using Powtoon.